Now, we have a really interesting panel, and it's actually about information overload. And I don't know how you've been experiencing this, but ever since obviously the coronavirus, impacted us, I've been a bit of a news junkie more than ever, and I've been reading everything constantly, and watching the news. And sometimes I do the worst thing: I read the news before I go to bed, and then I can't sleep properly. And it develops sort of anxiety, and you get addiction in terms of wanting to know what the latest coronavirus stats are. And so we wanted to do a panel to talk about information overload, the impact it has on the brain. And we actually have the most incredible panel of speakers who all are stellar champions across marketing, communications, brand, media, because we wanted to hear from communication experts on actually how does information affect them. And we didn't really want to have a technical conversation. We wanted to actually just talk about the human element of information overload, and how can we deal with it? Because we need information, but at the same time, how can you navigate through this sea, this ocean of information, and not feel overwhelmed, and to understand the brain better? So I would like to introduce our panel, if I may. And I would like to introduce, first of all, Kiri Sinclair. Now, Kiri Sinclair is the founder and the CEO of Sinclair. Now, she is a highly regarded thought leader and a regular commentator for the PR and communications industry in Asia. She was born in Hong Kong, and she earned her MBA from the University of Hong Kong. And in 2018, she was named the PR agency head of the year at Campaign Asia's PR Awards, and agency leader of the year at the Mumbrella Asia Awards. She's won countless other awards as well. And she's got her bio on the Creative Women website, so please do look her up. I would also like to introduce Veronica Sosa. She is the founder of Business Fit Academy and Business Fit magazine. She is a media entrepreneur, and she is a businesswoman who has also won multiple awards and in different countries. And so she's a very global woman, and she's an author. She's an expert in smart associations, owner of multiple organizations, as mentioned before, Business Fit International, and She, which is a seminar for Hispanic entrepreneurs. So we have an incredibly diverse panel. I would like to now also talk about our next panelist, who is Dr. Amal Masri. She is the CEO of Ougarit Group, editor-in-chief and founder at the Middle East Business News, and she is a top 10 most influential Arab women working in public relations in the Arab world. She holds multiple positions in various business organizations. She is very passionate and works for the advancement of women in Palestine across the Arab world. She is an activist in economic rights for women and believes that economic independence is the key to the advancement of women. I 100% believe that too. And then I would like to also welcome Katya. Katya Zemtsova. I've actually been hearing wonderful things about her throughout my life. We obviously have people in common. She is a director of Elephant Production Management, and she is the co-founder, and she is a marketing specialist. She's passionate about charity and giving back. She's an activist. She has over 2 decades of experience in the production of cultural events, lifestyle industry, and media. And she is, again, a woman of the world. She has worked across the major cities in the world: London, Paris, Berlin, and so forth. I would also like to welcome Elena Leo. Elena is a journalist. She is an editor. She is a communications specialist. She is incredibly passionate about storytelling, and she has an impressive portfolio of articles that have been published in media outlets around the globe. So her ability to connect with different cultures and write on behalf of different cultures is truly impressive. And she has worked with small publications, large publications in terms of media outlets. She's worked with PR agencies, advertising agencies, and she consults and she helps brands and companies to create content that not only generate demand and increases recognition, but also help them in terms of positioning their sort of strategically in the mindset of the consumer. So yeah, I'd like to welcome them. And I hope you can see them. Can you see them?
Dear panelists, please switch on your cameras because we would love to see you all.
Yeah, don't be shy.
No, we have to see you. Now you can put your cameras, and then
oh, wonderful.
When Farzana will be addressing a particular panelist, then please do switch on the microphone. This is how it's going to work. When you speak, you put both camera and microphone. When you sit on the panel and you do not speak, you switch off your microphone, but please have your camera on. Does it make sense?
Fantastic. Hello, ladies. Really impressed reading your profile, and I hope we can become friends after this panel. So first of all, I just want to talk about information overload. I found a really, really boring definition that I thought I'll start off by boring you with. According to some random Google website that I've stumbled across, information overload is when the amount of input exceeds the brain's processing capacity and productivity falls, and decision-making, attention span, and critical thinking is impaired. So that apparently is one of the definitions that's going around about information overload. What I wanted to do is I wanted to ask you all individually if you're all super stellar communication experts, and I want to ask you, human to human, are we facing an infodemic, an overload of information? And I want to know about your lives. I want to know how you consume information on a daily basis as communication experts. I want to know the impact it has on your mental health, on your productivity. I want to know, do you feel overwhelmed, or are you just cool with the information? I want to know, what do you do to limit any feelings of being overwhelmed if you do? So I want to know, the human impact that you ladies feel. Perhaps we can start off with Kiri.
Hi, and it's great to be on a panel with such amazing women. It's so relevant a question at this time, and just to put into a framework that we have been in Hong Kong in a crisis situation since June, and so June last year. So we're a year into this. And I think that there have been months where I've been very focused on turning the news off and looking after myself, self-care, preservation. And there's other times when just shocking things are happening and we need to stay on top of the news because, of course, we respond on behalf of our clients on a daily basis. I found that what I've focused most on is false information, false news, and how to stay away from that. I have a list of trusted news sites that I visit every morning and every evening. I've limited my apps that are allowed to send me breaking news because, of course, different apps have a different definition of what breaking news might be. And I do that by region, so one for the Hong Kong market, one for the China market, and one for international, of which I know that if it does come through as breaking news, it's going to be relevant for me, rather than the myriad pieces of news that can pop up on a daily basis just to cause anxiety or fear or such. And I make sure that the sources that I'm looking at or people are sharing with me, social media and so forth, that I'm really only clicking through to those that I trust and those that I know the information is going to be real, is going to be valid, and is not going to start the new rumor mills. And of course, in we have the US and other markets now also in protest at the moment. During protest, there is another level of information overload. And where we have what's happening on the ground being shared across social media in videos, but then discerning what's a real video and what's not a real video then comes into play. And of course, there's the social media live streaming. If you're very worried about something, say a protest is within the remit of a client, it's in a mall that you represent or on a street outside a business you represent, then you're kind of sucked into that. So I've started to have social media timeouts, very important. I really focus on making sure that I have total blackouts. So, you know, I turn my phone off at 10 p.m. It's on silent. The only call that's going to make through to me is my COO and my mother. Between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m., they are the only phone calls my phone will let through. And otherwise, I'm on my own and I have my headspace, which means I get the good night's sleep that I need. I have time to meditate. I have time to check out. And that is so important and has kept me somewhat sane. I'm not going to claim to be sane. I think there's a level of trauma that we've all been through, whether it be COVID related, and you know, the process that you were just talking about in your amazing speech just now is very valid. It's interesting to listen to that now, and I'm a month or two ahead of the curve, and to remember back to what that panic felt like when we just didn't know what was going on. But I think what also helps me, and what I remind my team on a daily basis, is this is a journey. It will pass. Let's deal with today, and worry a bit more about tomorrow. And that also keeps me sane. I'll pass on that.
Thank you so much. I love that idea of actually focusing on the present, because it's so calming actually to just stop that voice going on about what if, and perhaps just putting that into buckets of time when you develop strategy rather than it being a constant conversation in your mind. Thank you, Kiri. I'm just going in order of where the screens are really. So next I would love to hear from Veronica.
Hello, Farzana. Hello, everybody. I'm really pleased to be here. And indeed, your speech was amazing, and I loved it. And yes, of course, we are in an era that everything is changing, and we are up to date or updating us every time, every day. But to be calm and safe in our minds, our body, and our spiritual being, it is important to be and live the moment and the present. So what we do as well in the business fit and in the organizations that I have is to keep away from the fake news, as Kiri was saying. And I was listening to her and I was saying, okay, we're following the same rules here. Because it is really important to stay calm. At the beginning, obviously, when everything is, she's a year, we are only from March, everything started. The first week, I was really in shock. I couldn't believe it. It was something for me, we have spoken about the world being VUCA, that is volatility or uncertainty, complexity, and the other one is ambiguous. When you talk about it, you say it from words, but when you are really into this position, what COVID has caused in the whole world, you're shocked. And I was. But it took me 1 week to recover in a way of meditating, being with I'm sure that you know her, Viola, and all the gathering of the team to see, okay, how we're gonna do this, how we're gonna work. So we decide just to, the 11 people that I have in different parts of the world working for the magazine, just to gather the information and stay away from the fake news, and then just step by step, keeping our present moment. I'm from Venezuela, and the fake news in Venezuela are terrible. So for that reason, I kind of stop listening and watching news. But like Kiri said, just seeing the sources that you really trust and the people that you really trust that make you feel, and talk about it and discuss about how the future is going to be, because nobody knows it. Nobody knows how is it going to be. So as well, I'm lucky that my father is a doctor, so I can speak to him about it. And he wanted to even go to the hospital with 78 years old, and he wanted to help, which I was really scared, but I'm really proud of him, because it's what we do. We are on service to people, to give the proper information, to keep people calm. And I know there is a lot of uncertainty and a lot of fear, but if we keep ourselves calm and we give the right information, everything is going, as you say, crisis. We see crisis as an opportunity of change, and that's what we want to do, and that's what we want to transmit to people. So I know the world now is facing this moment of chaos, but from chaos we have the choice to choose the right way. So if we have the right information with love and the connection that you said something about living healthy ideas. So if we live that healthy idea every single day, we can together overcome these obstacles. So that's how we're doing it in our team, in our house as well. My husband is a little bit skeptical about, like, no, that's nothing. And I'm like, so it's keeping like a balance. You have as well my sisters like panicking. So living the present moment, breathing, and making sure that we get the right information to communicate the right things to people, because we're responsible to what we're saying and what we publish. Thank you.
Thank you, Veronica. That was very uplifting, and I love what you said about meditation, because I think research has shown that meditation does help to not only calm the mind, but also allow us to think with clarity, less fear-based, less reactive, much more considered, thoughtful. So I think that's really wonderful. Thank you, Veronica. Elena, we'd love to hear from you next, please.
Hello, everybody. I hope you can hear me well. Yeah, okay. Indeed, when we talk about information overload, and then you mentioned infodemic, and to infodemic, there is a little bit more to it than just information overload. We are actually talking about information that is incorrect, that is fake specifically, and it generally muddles the view of a problem or of a situation. It doesn't help to solve it. It actually brings us away from it. And infodemic, that is where we say information and pandemic, that is the real problem, even more so than information overload. Even, of course, those two are connected. So I think that it harms this as on both society and personal way, because as a society, it can increase social divide. It can take us away further from solving problems. And of course, on personal level, look, you're spending days scrolling on your phone, getting bombarded by news and getting nowhere with the task, for example, that you set out for yourself. So that is very, very true. We do face the infodemic right now. But I think as a journalist, I can tell you that I'm used to dealing with information in a very certain way. If I have to get an article out, I'm concentrated on that very specific task. I have to find people who I have to speak to for the article. I need to get their opinion, and I need to stay with this information without being distracted by anything else. And that's probably something that you could do, anybody could do from people who listen to us. Probably try and realize that you don't have to serve information. The main thing that can happen if you change a few habits is that information has to serve you. And probably I try and practice something that you could call a informational hygiene. And it doesn't mean like to brush your teeth first thing in the morning, i.e. scrolling through news. No, it's more like taking a shower in the end of the day and get rid of stuff that you do not need. Because let's be realistic. Information and the news will catch up with you wherever you go. You don't need to look for it that much. And also probably remember, it's good when I come across some news, so much of it, and I just realize for somebody, it's a job. And for somebody, as sad as it might sound, it is just a job. You will see people who are not very competent, who are writing about things that you are reading. You will see people who have bias or who have an agenda, specific agenda that they are following. So you need to remember that we live in not only in the age of fake news, but also post-truth. So this was a wonderful point, that there are trusted sources, for example, where you can follow, which I follow as well. But there is another thing that I have to check myself all the time, of course, is for confirmational bias. Because I have a certain picture in my head how the world looks like. And sometimes I try and push uncomfortable things aside so that the picture of world, how I see it, is undisturbed, is perfect. The world is not like that. So sometimes we have to sort of get comfortable with being uncomfortable. But I'd say make information serve you. Stay on the subject. If you need to research a certain problem, just be with that for a while. And probably I find it most productive when I try and switch off all the notifications. 100% there is off time, walking, first thing in the morning, wake up and I go for a run. I brush my teeth and I go for a run. There's no news, nothing happens, and nothing changes that. I'm too lazy to go for a run, I go for a walk. Because I read somewhere that sun needs to activate you. When the sun gets on your retina, when it gets on your skin, you become alive. I want that to bring me to life, and not what happened in whatever country in the world, whatever happened to COVID, whatever happened to protests, because this is my brain and this is my life. So if that helps anybody to sort of practice this sort of hygiene with information, I highly recommend it.
Thank you so much, Elena. I love the fact of getting your power back from information, that information should serve us, not vice versa. And also, what was really interesting was the confirmation bias that we all have, because we all live in a little filter bubble, and it's not a nice feeling when someone disagrees with you. You feel like giving them a bit of a slap, and what you should really be doing is actually listening to them, and overcoming that urge to disagree and shut off. But the problem with social media is the algorithms are as such that they reinforce the confirmation bias, and you can just go down this little rabbit hole, and it's so difficult actually to get out of that confirmation bias. And so wonderful points. Thank you so much. Now the next, I think, screen that we have is Katya.
Hello, everyone. I'm actually very excited to contribute to this information overload. And this is exactly what we are doing right now. And, there is a shocking statistic that every 2 days we create more information that we created since the dawn of human civilization up until 2003 or so. And this is not going away unless we move to the outskirts of Siberia or, somewhere without any humans around. And our smartphones have become like, Swiss Army knife-like appliances as well. So they're more powerful and do more things than the most advanced computer at IBM corporate headquarters like 30 years ago. And this is not going away either. So for me, this new reality started 20 years ago or so. And, to be honest, I'm happy to live in it. And I challenge you to look at it not as a problem, but rather as an opportunity. And it is also a matter of your personal and spiritual discipline in a way, not to mention your professional approach. We all as business women contribute to this information avalanche because we create events and projects, we distribute news of our clients and partners about our own products, and we help, as communications specialists, we help generate and communicate all this news. So whatever we do immediately transforms into information consumed by others. So I'm not even talking about social media noise we dive into. You create a website, or you want to advertise your activity. You use communications and information channels that are available thanks to the modern technology, and it's a huge plus for me. So I think maybe it's worth looking at it as an opportunity to create, and as an opportunity to become a creator of something valuable and meaningful within your niche industry, within whatever you are doing. And you know, it is in a way a dream come true. And you know, we have an incredible opportunity to keep an eye on industry news and business rumors and what's going on in our specific niche industry. And you know, I was talking the other day with one of my clients, and we were discussing the fact that 10 or so years ago, all you had to do to become a successful communicator, blogger, or, you know, entrepreneur was to create good enough content and to be consistent about it. And even networking was optional, but things have changed drastically now. There are like more than 1 billion active websites and blogs, and they push out new content on the internet daily. So of course it's easy to get lost and give up before you even start, but consider yourself as someone who can really contribute and who can change the world, because due to this information infrastructure available today, you can be heard and you can really change and help and probably, you know, find your own way in this world and in this business you are doing. So that's what I wanted to say.
Great, thank you, Katya. So it's so much more optimistic. Knowledge is power. We're lucky to live in an age that actually we can access knowledge, we can access thought leaders in our industry, and that is definitely a positive. So we have Dr. Amal. You look like you're in a car or a plane.
Well, I need to explain that Dr. Amal had difficulties. She's traveling and she had a difficulty with the connection. So we can see her finally, but we might have a problem with the sound. Amal, can we? We can't hear you. We were until the last second fighting for the sound to get sound from Amal, but
Shall I continue with?
It looks like, unfortunately, it didn't work. Amal, can you? We can see you, but we cannot hear you. Did you manage to put on your microphone? Because Amal was using different devices and she's traveling. Right, it seems that we still have a problem with the microphone. So maybe we could, in this case, move on.
Yeah.
Sadly, we do have a problem with the microphone. We've been quite good at managing so far with all the technical obstacles. So
I'll continue then, yeah?
Yes, please do.
Okay, great. So that's been really interesting. Obviously, we all share quite similar sort of ideas. I want to know what you guys think about what's going to happen in the future. Like what's going to happen in, say, I don't know, the next 10 years, or you can play around with timelines if you want to talk, you know, longer than that. You know, the information is going to increase exponentially. We know that. Will we be able to better manage information? How will we deal with these confirmation bias that, you know, Elena mentioned? Will it be positive, as Katya mentioned, that we will be able to, you know, utilize that because it's a positive thing to have access, you know, to knowledge? Will we all start having mass meditations, like Veronica was mentioning, and, you know, in order to sort of still our brain? You know, Kiri, who is ahead of all of us, you know, in Hong Kong in terms of the pandemic, she could probably see, you know, in terms of what's happening a bit more, you know, as countries are coming out of these issues. So I really want to know, what is the future going to be like? Is it positive? Is it negative? Are we going to be able to handle this information? Is there, are there just going to be more and more and more communication channels coming up? And is there going, are we going to just continue being news junkies? Do these social media they hire psychologists to know how to hack the brain? Are we just going to be just hackable humans, just manipulated by sort of algorithms? Does it result in us actually thinking much more tactical and present focused, and not being able to have that sort of big, deep focus in terms of our own personal future? So I want to know what your thoughts are about the future. I want to know, is it positive? Is it negative? What do you see happening in the future? From a personal sort of human level, how information is going to impact us. And perhaps we should go the other way, because otherwise Katya has all the time in the world to think, and Kiri doesn't. So I'm going to reverse it.
Yes.
So Katya, my dear.
Could I just interrupt you? First of all, it's been reconfirmed that Amal sadly has a problem, so we can't count on her. And if I could apologize to you and to all the wonderful panelists, and asking to give their views now as brief as possible, because we are running behind the schedule, and of course with such an ambitious online event, it will create difficulties. Thank you so much for your understanding.
Okay, Olga, so ladies, this is obviously the last question. If there's anything you want to say that wasn't in my question, feel free. So, last thoughts, Katya.
Well, I think we should treat information as food. So you can either, as Kate Cook told us earlier, you can either pick up, sweet, fluffy, white substance, or real food. And, I think it's a survival skill to learn as well. So those who will not be able to acquire new skills to manage this tasking and multi-channeling information will develop mental issues, or might develop, because neuroscientists confirmed that this is it can be hugely damaging. So it is about learning how to digest and how to make the right choices. So just cut down the number of sugar. And consume, that's another recommendation of neuroscientists, consume very high quality, complex content. Make yourself read long books, make yourself watch serious, profound films instead of Netflix series. It's a powerful tool, and we need to rewire our brain to adapt and to survive.
Okay, thank you, Katya. Treat information like food. I think that's a great tip. Elena.
A second. Hello again. Sorry, my video is a little bit dark now, but I made a couple of notes while you were talking, so that I have a chance to say everything that I wanted. When we're talking about the future, I think there will appear more ways to check trusted sources of information. As now already you can see, when something appears on internet, i.e. Donald Trump recent tweets, and Twitter obviously put it as information that needs to be checked or potentially racist or something, things like that, and more of that. I think there will be technology, or people will be grouping together to combat, first of all, this false information and post-truths. Having said that, the technology is there, so we will see more fake videos, more things that actually didn't happen, and our opinion will be swayed left, right, and central more. So this is just something you have to be aware of when you're dealing with information. Katya is absolutely right. Learning how to deal with information has become a vital skill, and it will become even more so. I also think you need to understand, each of us, that we are not only consumers of information, we are information. You started talking about things that happen on social media. Your reaction on social media, which news you repost, something that you spread, it creates information. Something that you said, the comment you left, it becomes information. It becomes something that someone will consume and say, yes, this is so, on a much bigger scale. So again, back to that informational hygiene, probably sometimes don't leave too much of that footprint. You know, there is so much time spent there. Probably think about what you say online as much as you would say in real life. And also I was thinking that probably watching the quality of your information, not only consumption but output, is very important. So the information that you and I produce on a daily basis, let's produce not more of it, but more good and complex information, something that is really well thought. And that could be actually very useful for people you know. If you're an expert in something, collaborate with other experts, hold a webinar, and you can go hyper-local, even within your WhatsApp group or somewhere else, where people can really benefit from things that you know. Solve a problem, elevate someone's situation with things that you already know. And that your information output in this world will be improving the situation, rather than joining a chorus of you know, another hundreds and millions of people shouting into space at the same time.
Thank you, Elena. So really advice in terms of watching our own digital footprint. Veronica.
Yes, I was making some notes as well here, and I love the fact that that Katya said about taking food as a, you know, the ideas or the communication, the information that we have as food, and it's perfect because stay away from sugar. That's not good at all. So I'm gonna say a phrase that you said, that is not the strongest of the species that survive, but the most adaptable. So that's what's going to be happening for us who adapt, who are willing to make the change, but the changes start from within. So I will go back, as Erwin Laszlo said in the interview that I had with him. He says, going back to the source. So the information is what we have, what our thoughts are, what we consume, what we feed our mind and our soul with. So we have to start from there. That's the point number one, how we're connecting to us, not the first step. The second step is to be curious. To be curious is about, judging, not judging, but saying, is this true? Is this true? I'm going to find out if it's true. Doubt. Because if you doubt, then you can find the real truth of everything. So, and then about being curious, then you connect. When you connect, as you say, the ideas or the healthy living ideas are the ones that you're going to transmit to the rest of the people. So you connect and share these ideas to the rest of the people. So the first thing is that you feed yourself with great ideas and communicate them to you first. Be healthy first. Then be curious when you are just growing your ideas, and then share them. Share them, because then we can be adaptable, or we can adapt to the new times. I think technology is amazing because it's our ideas putting out there. Isn't it amazing that one idea is now in our hands, like the phones? So it's amazing, but as well to be conscious how we are affecting the world. So the last thing that I will say is this kind of technologies have to be thoughtful. How we are doing this, or how we are affecting our Mother Earth where we live with this kind of technologies. So it's everything like a circle of energy that we're creating here. So yes, be mindful, connect with yourself, and spread the great ideas out there. Adapt.
So thank you, Veronica. So really individual responsibility, spread positivity, use technology as a tool to create a better world, which is in essence what we all want. Kiri, please.
And I will be quick. Thank you for the question. I think it is such an important moment in time to look forward and say, what is the next 10 years going to bring us? And we understand that it's only going to be more and more information. And yes, there are organizations out there, Reuters Fact Check, You know, Twitter's actually starting to fact check a surprise, and other organizations that see the importance of truth. And we are going from a period of misinformation and distrust in government, distrust in media, and hopefully now we'll start to see that change. But that change is going to take a decade. That's what the next decade is going to be about. So I think at this point, rather than always looking out and blaming them, we each, as an individual creative woman, we each have that opportunity. It is a choice what we choose to consume on media, social media, WhatsApp, and so forth. Make the choice, take the action. The second thing is that you can either let it control you or you can control it, right? You have that choice. Create your boundaries, set those boundaries in place, and just, you know, we're all talking food here, you know, consider your diet and work with it, right? If you want the negativity to come into your life, you're inviting it in. You have a choice to close that channel off. Make that choice. I think that one thing to always remember is that, especially at moments like now, and as a PR, I'd like to just remind you all that the media is right now in a very difficult position. They do not have advertising budgets. Subscriptions are down. They are struggling to survive. And what they need to show is eyeballs. So now more than ever, they want to shock you into reading their information more than ever before. So that headline that says, this country has the highest numbers, you know, so that you click it and go in and find out what that country is. That's happening more and more, and we're going to see more and more of that as the recession unfolds globally. Be aware of that. It changes the way that you consume media. I think it's also important that all of us educate ourselves on the source and to always question the source of information. So for example, even on CNN, they're in the same position as anyone else. Some people see CNN, BBC as a source of information that you can trust, but also they're in a rush to break the news first. They're in a rush to have a headline that grabs your attention so you click in. You know, I consume both CNN and BBC. However, I do so with my goggles taken off. I remember what their objective is. And then I need to apply my own boundaries to that and my understanding. I educate myself on their objectives. What's in it for them to share this? And that protects me and my mental health when I'm consuming information. So always question the source and question why they're doing what they do. And my last point is how you engage with information is critical. How you engage with information is critical. And so think about every piece of information that you read, that you share, that you like, that you care for, that you put on Twitter is an engagement that you've had with it. You're amplifying content. You're encouraging others to look at content. Perhaps you're making a comment on something and therefore you're engaging in a potential argument, right? Be aware that how you engage matters, because it will then drive the way that that media and the people on that media engage with you. And my suggestion to you is do the least harm you can. Do that by being always positive. If you don't have something good to say, don't say it. I don't say that to the reporter. For the reporter, I say, please share the truth with us. We need to know. But for the others, if you're working with a client and your client asks you to do something and you know that you'd be sharing negative news with the world, convince them otherwise. Don't do it. Be that barricade that stops the information overflow and the dishonesty from going on. We have the responsibility, take the challenge and be that responsibility, to be optimistic and positive and uniting and caring and loving. And I want to thank you all for being here. I'm now going to change into my PJs and watch you from bed because it's going on 9. Fabulous moderating. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kiri. I mean, absolutely fascinating to really understand the source and understand the economic conditions that that media, mainstream media is going through and putting that lens on. Thank you so much for that. All of you ladies, my God, I mean, how lucky are we to hear from you about such an important thing such as communication. So huge, huge thank you, to Katya, Elena, Veronica, Kiri. I hope Amal, is okay, and we send our best regards to her. And thank you, Olga, for putting on Creative Women. You are a creative woman, and we just adore you. So thank you.